So today is April 23rd, and we just wanted to kind of record something truly amazing that God has done. And one, for our sake, and two, just to be able to share it maybe a little more easily over text. So, if you don't know, if you weren't fully aware, we've been battling sickness for 5 years now. It ended up being Lyme disease, long road, long journey to get to that, co-infections, severe neuropathy in my legs, deterioration in my discs in my back, having like autonomic type symptoms, brain cognition decline, fun symptoms. So we ended up going to a doctor in New York in March, on March 21st. It's a Thursday. Flew out on a Wednesday. Flight was horrible. My body does not respond well to altitude, so and the cabin pressure, so started to have a really bad, painful flare in the air. Landed, got in bed, went to the doctor's appointment the next day. He confirmed that my symptoms and the stuff that was occurring was normal for chronic Lyme disease. Said we could start treatment immediately. Had the prescriptions called in before we left the office to our pharmacy in Frisco. So we then go back to the hotel, get in bed. My body was in pain. We woke up the next morning, went to the airport, and I knew it was going to probably be a very bad day. Wasn't prepared for how bad it was going to be, but it was. We got on that airplane. I had so many drugs in my system to try to just knock me out or tranquilize me or incapacitate me on the airplane so that I didn't feel anything. But I was wide awake that entire flight because my legs were on fire.
And feet and back.
Yes, just extreme pain. I've only had one other instance over the 5 years that it's been that bad. But it lasted longer. So we're in the air. I'm telling Allie, hey, can you please notify someone that we're going to need a wheelchair when we arrive, because I can just tell my legs are not going to work very well. They're in just a lot of pain, so walking is painful and putting any pressure on them. So Allie's trying to work that out. I'm feeling
Trying to survive.
feeling like I'm going a little insane, that time has like suspended, and we still had like almost 2 hours left on that flight.
Y'all know how big Isaac is, and he at one point shoved himself on the floor between his seat and the seat in front of him in an attempt to sit on his legs to like make them go numb.
Yes. Yes.
And you know, like that airplanes are not built for people who are tall, and then let alone to shove yourself on the floor.
Yeah. I was doing everything I could to make my legs go numb so that I wouldn't be feeling what I was feeling. And it is kind of a tactic that I use when the neuropathy is really, really bad, to get my legs to go to sleep by just sitting on them, sitting on my knees. So we landed. It was horrific. Allie went and got the car. A wheelchair was going to take like 45 minutes. So I ended up just, while Allie's going to get the car, they're like, you can sit here and wait, but it'll take 45 minutes. I'm like, I'm just going to start walking. So it probably took me 45 minutes to walk to the car. But finally Allie picked me up. We went home, and basically on that day, I think it was on that day when we were driving home, that we knew we had a trip to Seattle like 2 weeks later that I'd already booked and we'd already paid for.
Before we knew what traveling was going to be like, because Isaac had not gotten on a plane since November of 2022.
Yeah, it's been a while. And I looked at Allie and said, there's no way I'm getting on that plane to go to Seattle. There's absolutely no way I'm doing that again. You could not pay me any amount of money to put me back on an airplane.
And I agreed 100%. I'm like, well, yeah, duh. Like, we're not going. That's not happening.
Yeah. So that wrecked us, that traumatized us, that had a lot of negative impact to our life. There was this kind of lingering. We hadn't revisited Seattle, but we both kind of knew where we stood on it. But we were also going to lose a lot of money because everything was paid for, and we were both just exhausted. So as we're getting closer, basically the next weekend, Allie went to Vegas.
Yes.
Flew to Vegas with the girls for Easter weekend, which was bonkers. I was home alone, was good, got some rest, got some good time with God. Allie comes back, she's exhausted, even more depleted. And then now the next trip is Seattle.
As I'm packing up in Las Vegas to fly home, I traveled with my mom and the girls. And so there I am, and I'm kind of solo packing up all their bedding and their car seats, and walking through the airport with one car seat strapped to my front and one car seat strapped to my back, and trying to navigate the Las Vegas airport with my 2 kids. And thankfully I had my mom there as an extra set of hands, but I almost had a breakdown, like just before I even got home from Las Vegas, thinking, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this in like 2 weeks?
Again.
And have a husband who is having to move slower. We can only move at such a rapid pace. So I'm going to have to like move slower while holding all of this, while managing more suitcases because we're going for longer. Like it was just like this for me. I'm like immediately like, we haven't talked about it, but we're not going.
Yeah. Then as it got closer, the tension was building. We had this moment, so we had some stuff planned. We had a call with our realtors that we were working with up here, because we originally booked this for vacation, but then it also turned into maybe it could be a good place to
look for a summer home.
Yeah, something.
Since
just to get out of the heat.
July is really bad for Isaac, so we were like, it's beautiful here in the summer. It'll give us an escape in summertime to get ahead of him having long bouts of flare-ups.
Yeah. So we had a call with our realtors a week before we were going to leave, and Allie, probably 3-4 days earlier than that, felt I had kind of about faced and was like, I didn't want to disappoint the girls. I'm like, I can fight through it knowing it's just 8 days. I'm going to go to a back pain specialist, get injections. I talked to my primary care physician, and she was able to call me in a like concentrated dose of Valium for the flight, like 3 pills it was only 6 pills total, 3 for the flight out and 3 for the flight back. So I was trying to do everything I could to kind of prepare and maybe deal with it differently, knowing how bad it was, and in the attempt of trying to just make it happen, because I knew it was our girls were looking forward to it. They've been talking about it, and it was something we had been building up as well. So it just turned into this thing where I'm like, babe, I think I'm gonna plug this in so you guys can see us.
It just turned into this back and forth of I didn't want to go, but then Isaac was battling the tension of like disappointing the girls and all the other factors that went into that. And about a week or so before the trip and before the call with the realtors, somewhere in between there, Isaac and I just had been having regular conversations about what all of this meant. And I think you were fasting one day, and I think you were fasting and you were going to ask.
Yes,
you were like spending some time with intentionality.
Yes.
Just to get some questions and clarity from the Lord.
Yep.
And one of the things he had said was Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh, good. I felt like the Lord's already spoken something to me, and I would like my prayers that you get confirmation through fasting. And I had shared begrudgingly because I did not want to tell him before.
And I kind of
he pushed, but I had felt when we
strong-armed
were
her
driving
into it.
home from the airport from New York, and I'm just thinking like, Lord, this is so cruel. Like, we haven't flown in a year and a half, and now we have all these trips, and like Seattle. Like, now what are we gonna do about Seattle? Like, one more thing in the season that I feel like is just completely crushed and taken away. And I just felt this, like, this sense that it was like, it's not a no, but it's a not right now. And I didn't say anything to Isaac really until he had shared that he was seeking that intentional time to get some clarity from the Lord. And I said, I don't know if that means like it's a no, don't go. It's a no, don't get a summer house. Like, I didn't know, but I had just shared what it was. And so then when we talked to our realtors,
on that Tuesday, just understanding what the market's like and everything, there was just all these signs. I'm like, okay, I agree. After we had that call, we were in two different places. When I came home that night after we get the girls down, I said, I'm in agreement with you. It's not a no, but it's not now. And that to me meant the home. But it didn't mean, and I had kind of clarified with her, I said it didn't necessarily mean that we don't go. And I talked to her about, we had a good conversation that night. It was Tuesday night. And that was the night when I had shared, I think it's recorded, but I had shared with her, I'm reading this book, The God of Comfort, that was recommended by our counselor, Mark. Mark, thank you. And it just talks about how the Lord is our Heavenly Father. He's a beyond a better Father than we can ever comprehend. And I thought about if my girls were to ask me for something at the age that they're at in innocence, of course I would give them what they wanted and more. So I started praying that before that meeting with the realtors, I started praying, Lord, just make the flight not be painful. Like, I'm your son asking you, as you being my father, just in pure innocence, this is my prayer. And I shared that with Allie that night. Then Friday, I had a dentist appointment, and then went from a dentist appointment to get a massage. And I felt God speak a word that I wrote. There were a couple of things that he had spoken, but one of the things he said that I needed to share with Allie was that he's in the business of doing miracles. And I didn't know what that meant. I just kind of tried to connect that to my prayer and say, just stand on that. So that was Friday. Weekend went by. We come up to Tuesday. We're getting ready to fly out that kind of afternoon. And we're both, I can tell we're both, at least I was very nervous.
Hold on, let's back up. We still had not made the decision to come. We were still...
Oh, yes.
We were still unsure.
That was Friday.
And also, let me say, when Isaac said that we had a good conversation on that Tuesday, that is one perspective. For me, I'm not kidding. The whole time he's sitting there sharing, and it's like, I'm such a jerk, so I'm going to clarify that. But the whole time, like, he's pouring out his heart, and it is, like, so tender and sweet. And he's sharing about how he's been praying with the Lord. And I'm literally, because inside I'm dying. Because I'm like, I cannot go on this trip. I will literally lose my mind if we go on this trip, and then we get there, and Isaac's in bed, and now I'm in a new place, in a new car with 2 kids. With, like, I don't know where I'm at. I don't know what I'm doing. And not that I couldn't figured it out. I could, logistically. But, like, for my sanity, for my emotional state, and just where life is, like, that was a lot. And there's more into it that I could probably get into, but I won't. But it's just, so that was the dynamic of that good conversation. I was dying, and he's sitting here pouring his heart out to me, and I'm like, but I didn't, and I really believe now, looking back, that it was the Holy Spirit, like, holding my tongue, because it took everything in me to want to combat every good and positive thing he was saying. And I just had this, like, nudging in my spirit of, like, just stay quiet. And there's part of that was difficult, and I was like, oh, I need to, like, I should be able to say what I want. I should be able to say what I need. But I'm, again, looking back, I recognize that was totally the Lord. Because if I would have said, we're not going, I can't handle it, Isaac would have canceled the trip in a minute. And I guess
Yes.
I guess he just beat me to the punch because I told him, I'm like, if you tell me, like, I need to go, like, okay, like, I'll put aside what I need and want, and we'll go. And we were in it, so it was really sweet because we were both at this place of, like, being willing to sacrifice, like, this self-sacrifice for what the other person wants and needs. And so I guess he just communicated sooner than I could.
Yes.
Because we definitely were at that spot. And
There goes the daughter.
there's children who should be asleep. So we hadn't decided, and then we had that conversation.
Yes.
I just woke up the next morning and said, okay, like, we're going to make this decision out of your faith and not my fear, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So then you went on
Yes,
Friday to get
so
a massage
sorry,
to
so
prepare
sorry.
his body,
Yeah.
to loosen everything up to get on the plane.
Yeah. And then, so we kind of had a weekend of prep. Like, the girls went on Sunday. Like, I took the girls on Saturday.
Yeah.
Then and then I.
And they spent some time with friends, the Chapmans. Got them on
Yes.
Sunday.
So we had kind of a slower weekend to kind of prep and get ready.
Yep.
Monday came, I'm working. Tuesday, I'm
We're
working.
about to get on this airplane.
And then we go to this, like, a half day, and then we get on the airplane. And I'm worried. My body, I can already feel my feet are starting to fire up from just walking, because walking any amount of distance on a hard surface is almost immediately painful. So I'm like, I need to go sit down. I need to get off my feet. We're waiting at the gate, get on the airplane. Allie has to help me get the carry-on up into
The overhead bin.
the overhead bin, because it was a little heavy, and that is something that would that my back normally doesn't handle well. So we're trying to lighten the load as much as possible. I sit down.
And we're sitting separate. So when we had
Yes.
booked the flights, we knew, like, Isaac's gonna need extra space, like, being crammed even in a row with just the two girls, and his legs, it's just tight. So we booked him a first class seat, and then the girls and I were, I don't know, 10 rows back, regular. So we weren't sitting together. So that was also an area of concern, because then I'm like, we're subjecting a stranger to what happened on the airplane in New York. Like, I don't feel like that's being very kind.
Yeah, and I said I would just wear my sunglasses
Yeah.
the whole time,
And
so they
so-
couldn't see me crying.
Yeah. And so then I was like, once we, like, separated, we got Wi-Fi or, like, free messaging on the plane, and I told him to turn it on,
And I legitimately did not want to. I was a little reluctant.
Yeah, but he did.
But
But the plan was, I said, I'm not going to bug you the whole trip. Like, keep me updated. But the hope was he was going to sleep. But the hope was he was going to take the 3 Valium
yeah.
and get ready to just sleep for at least a large portion of the trip. So we get on the plane, and then
We kind of were at each other that morning, so we had a text of just apologizing now that things had kind of calmed down. And I had taken the Valium 30-ish minutes before we boarded. So one of the last things I texted her was, "Holy Valium kick, wowza." And she said, "Hopefully it knocks you out. Are you okay?" And I said, "I'm okay, ready for this to be over." So
and that was at
that was at 12:21.
Yeah.
So we're at that point. I don't even remember taking off. I never buckled my seatbelt. I don't remember any of the instruction. Like, I sent that text, I probably turned my music up, and I was out.
Yeah.
Then I wake up an hour later, which was like 30 minutes into the flight, because I think it still took us another 20-ish
To take off.
minutes to take off. So I get on the Wi-Fi, and I say, "Yo, let me know if you're getting this." And Allie responded. So for the flight, so let me back up. I woke up and immediately had noticed that my legs weren't hurting. The only thing I could think was maybe that's the effect, the elongation effect of the Valium, but they were not hurting. And I almost did, I can't believe I almost glazed over that. I almost did like a double take. I'm like touching my legs and wondering, have they just not woken up yet? Then I start maybe knowing that I'm going to get too much in my head. So I turn my music back up. I grab my phone. connect to the Wi-Fi, send Allie a text. So at this point, something is already different. But I text Allie, you know, she's like, clearly, you know, you didn't fall asleep. I said I slept for about 30 minutes, took some more medication, and am drinking some hot tea to hopefully get back to sleep. And then Allie's like, I won't bombard you and ask 1,000 times for updates, but if you need anything, just let me know. I said, you got it, love. How's it going back there? All good. So we're having this just check-in exchange, and then I don't know why, what God reminded me in that moment. I sent Allie, I said, I'm reminded to share this word God gave me. Wait and see what our God can do. He is in the business of doing miracles. And I put a hashtag, have to get out of the boat to walk on water. And then a crazy face and prayer hands. And I said, just keep the faith, love. God is doing something different in this new season. And at this time, I'm not entirely sure what's going on. I know what my prayer was, which was, Lord, please let the plane ride not hurt. That's what I was asking for. And the last text I sent to her on this little group was, Psalms 40 is what I'm standing on. So, Pastor Neil in 2022, towards the end of 2022 at Gateway, pulled me aside one service and said, hey, I have a word for you that I need to share with you. And his word was Psalms 40, 1-2. And he said, does that resonate with you at all? And what those verses were, I'm going to read them. Psalms 40 verse 1 is, I waited patiently for the Lord to help me, and he turned to me and heard my cry. He lifted me out of the pit of despair, out of the mud and the mire. He set my feet on solid ground and steadied me as I walked along. That was Psalms 40, 1-2. And it obviously resonated with me. We were right in the thick of doing PRP, platelet-rich plasma. And oh no, we hadn't. We had just come back from New York for my birthday, and it was
Really bad.
miserable, very, very painful trip. So painful. I flared for like 3 weeks. I flared through the end of October into November, and that's what led me to go to a
Neuropathy doctor.
neuropathy specialist.
That's really when the diligent seeking of treatment occurred. Not that we hadn't been seeking treatment, not that we hadn't been seeking answers. We had a lot in that season, but it almost was like October of 2022 was the year that it was okay. Like, we kind of went through a lot of doctors after that.
Yes.
Because it no longer became, let's just wait and see, or, we were at a point, we shouldn't have waited so long to get there, but again, all God's timing. And so we were just about to start. And at this time, not a lot of people knew what we were dealing with, knew what Isaac was dealing with. And especially the church we'd just been going to Gateway Crossroad not very long.
Yeah.
We just weren't really public with the severity of what was happening.
And a lot of that was because we didn't fully realize what it was until it was...
And people knew, like, we were constantly canceling or constantly adjusting plans, so people knew we were walking through stuff. But again, it just progressed. And so we didn't have a ton of people know. So all of that to say, Pastor Neil didn't know...
Yeah, he had no idea. Yeah.
That we were walking through anything,
Yep.
that we had any health issues. I mean, there was, even up to that point, there was probably minimal... It was a very acquaintancy relationship.
Yeah.
It's not like
yeah.
That's why we were, at that point, in regular communication.
Correct. And so, Allie and I send that. She's, standing with you, love. This was her text response. Standing with you, love. Even when I struggle, I don't doubt him. And I'm sorry if my lack of yuck these last few weeks has caused any hindrance to you. My response, babe, nothing you have done has caused a hindrance. What you went through is valid and needed from time to time to get real and raw emotions out so God can address them. All good. So that's it. The rest of the flight was just, how you holding up? Just fine so far. She would text a little later, so good, ? No sleep, ? Negative. Then she's like...
He's not giving me anything to go off of.
Yeah, because again, I'm not entirely sure what it is. I'm still just... at this point, I'm working on my computer, just trying to keep my mind busy to not think myself out of it. So just trying to stay busy, thankful, can tell something is happening, but not entirely sure what it is yet. So,
and then as we're about to land, or as we're getting ready, preparing for landing, I text Isaac.
yes.
I tell him, I say, hey,
Yeah.
either leave the bag and walk, or stay in your seat and wait for us and I'll get it down, but don't try to get it down. Like,
Yes. Yes.
it really
yes,
was
yes.
a heavy carry-on, and that is the last thing he needs to be doing, because especially we tried to do this with New York too, is minimize any additional exertion. So
Yeah.
like, don't carry a bag, get a roller, and if I can roll it, I'll roll it. Don't wear anything on your back. Just minimize walking. Let's get a close parking spot. Like, we truly did everything we could in prep. And so even this, having come off of what we came off of from New York, I'm like, absolutely don't try to grab that bag.
Yeah, yeah. So I am standing there. We land. People are getting off the airplane. I'm standing there in my row, or kind of sitting there, and just watching people walk by. I stand up. I'm like, man, my legs feel fine. I'm kind of just standing here waiting. And after a while, like, so many people are going by, there was this big break in the line. Someone was messing with their bag. I just walked out, grabbed my suitcase, put it down on the ground, and walked off the airplane. And in my mind, I'm thinking, that felt just fine. Like, not even a little bit of a shot of pain from that, which would normally be the occurrence. Walk off the plane, Allie and the girls come off.
I dropped Jensen off and run because Holland had to go potty.
Yeah.
So I don't even get to see, like, I have no idea where he's at because I'm literally throwing a kid at him to avoid an issue with another kid.
Yes. So I sit down in this chair, Jensen's standing there, just kind of dancing around. I open up my carry-on because I'm putting on my slippers that are softer and more cushiony, and Jensen goes, "Oh, Daddy, are your legs hurting from the flight?" And I said, "No, baby, they're actually not." And her response was, "What?" And like a proper 5-year-old response. And I said, "Yeah, baby, I don't know what's going on, but Daddy prayed to God that I wouldn't have any pain from the flight, and it looks like that's what's happened." And she's like, "Oh, wow, that's great, Daddy. God healed your legs." And I said, "Yeah, baby, he did." So we're sitting here having this moment, and there's almost like this weird euphoria that is occurring because I'm still I'm not entirely sure what's going on. And I know that's maybe hard to explain, but for years, for a long time, anytime I did something physical, the payment of pain grew greater. So it wasn't something that was like, oh, if I do this, the pain, I know what the pain will be like. It's if I carried a bag of luggage that was, too heavy last year versus this year it would hurt a whole lot more. It hasn't sustained at a level. It's just continued to get worse. So I'm kind of just trying to wrap my head around, how am I even walking and standing and my feet don't hurt and my legs aren't on fire and my back is not just in severe pain. And Allie comes back. I stand up and I give her a hug and I say, "Baby, my legs don't hurt." And you were like, "What? What do you mean here?"
And I also kind of thought that he was just like, because he knew how badly I didn't want to go on this trip, I kind of thought that he was like, "I'm good." Like, he wanted to like bite on a bullet and say like, "I'm good. I don't feel any pain. Nothing hurts. Nothing hurts." But I like thought that it was potentially just him being like, "I'm good. I'm great. No problems. We're good. We're good."
Yeah.
And like white knuckling it through. And so I'm like, okay. And so he just kind of like start walking like.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but my legs don't hurt, my back doesn't hurt, my feet don't hurt. I don't know. And in that moment, again, I knew what I was feeling or not feeling, but I also still I just couldn't wrap my brain around what was going on.
Yeah.
So we
Get the luggage,
we get our luggage, like
get the rental car.
Everything's normal.
And I'm like, we're like getting the rental car. I'm like, all right, like, let me get in. I'm going to drive. And he's like, no, I'm good. And I'm like, my reference point was flying to New York, and he had to take so much medication.
Yeah. And I hadn't taken any more meds.
You don't even, he's like, no, I'm good. I'm like, okay, now we're pushing this whole faking it thing, white knuckling it a little too far. But we got in the car and put the GPS in and had about an hour drive from the airport to our Airbnb.
Yeah.
And you put on music and you said, I'm sorry if I'm quiet right now. I'm kind of just in my head.
Yeah, I said I'm having a discussion elsewhere because when we were we had to take like a shuttle over to the rental car place, and Allie wouldn't let me pick up any of the luggage, and which was totally valid to help. And then I'm sitting there on the shuttle, and our girls had never been on a shuttle, and I'm just like having this discussion or attempting to have this dialogue with God of like, what in the world is going on? Can you give me some clarity here of the extent or the magnitude? So my mind was elsewhere. And we get to the rental car place and we have to wait for this car and just have plenty of time for my mind to be dialoguing somewhere else. So we get in that car and I turn the music on, and I think at that point it started to hit me of what a good father we have, that what I asked for was, hey, can we not have any pain on the flight, please? And what he gave was a complete healing of all the symptoms.
All the pain.
Yes, all the pain. So, and what's crazy is before, I went to a new back pain specialist before we flew out to Seattle, and that was where I was.
And the plan was to get the injections to help with the flight.
Yes.
So and then he came home and said he wasn't getting injections, which was one more reason I did not want to get on the airplane.
Yes, but the reason why is because my last MRI was too old. It was like a year old.
Yeah.
So
he was going to get one on Monday before the flight.
Yeah. So he said you need to get an MRI to get updated imagery so that we know what we're looking at and where we're going. And I had one scheduled the day before we were going to fly out, so on Monday the 15th. And then they called me like 4 days before and said, "Sir, you're not in we're not in your network. So here's what the out-of-pocket rate is." And I said, "Oh, don't worry, cancel it. I'll just book it at a place that's in our network." So I didn't get to have that MRI, which would have given me some results from the damage. But now I have an MRI on Friday. Today is Tuesday. I have an MRI on Friday. We get back in town tomorrow. And we're praying that shows that my back has not gotten worse. And maybe it's gotten better, because I went to this pain doctor for the first time. And he said, your MRI is a little over a year old, so we need to get you updated imagery. He goes, just to see, like if it's gotten worse, and who knows, maybe it's gotten better. And I remember when he said that, I am like sarcastically chuckling in my brain, because I'm like, who says that? He's a back pain doctor.
And when did your back ever just get better?
Like the problems that I have, he had said, you've got obviously some areas that are of concern and a couple of areas that are would require surgery, but let's focus on the areas that we can help you in. And then he makes that statement, who knows, maybe it got better. Like, I don't know how, that to me was odd. Yeah. So we're praying that the MRI is better. But this entire week, for about 3 days, we were just, feel like we're dreaming. Like I said probably multiple times to Allie, I just feel like we're dreaming. I would wake up and not be in pain. I would be able to take my first step of the day and not be in pain. I was able to walk up and down stairs and not be in pain. We went to the tulip fields, spent 2.5 hours in the car out there, and 2.5 hours in the car on the way back, which would have wrecked my back. Walked around.
You walked around 2 grocery stores where we grocery
shopped. Yes. Like so many things that normally would just
we went on
wreck
a hike
me.
Together.
Yes. played ping pong, like walked on the beach,
And there
and
were so many
explored.
times. There have been so many times throughout this week. Again, I think we're both still processing and both still like
In shock.
yeah. And there have been so many every morning. How you feeling?
Yeah.
How you feeling? Or we'd
And
go.
she-
I'm like, you okay? Like we got to the tube field. I'm like, you okay? Like, do we need to find a closer parking spot? Do we need to like just drive by? Like, what do we need to do?
And then she's
"I'm
like,
good."
"Don't lie to me." And I'm like, "Why on earth would I lie about
Yeah.
that?"
He's like, I'm good. And I mean, so many times
Yeah.
throughout the week, it's like, how you feeling? How you doing?
Yeah.
Just continually checking in, like,
Crazy. Absolutely
still
crazy.
good, still good.
So we're praying that it's not just a Seattle thing,
Yep.
but I believe that it is full and complete in that sense. And I want to just finish with reading, because our year, and this is Pastor Neil, thank you for the word, for being faithful and obedient to share the word, because I felt at the beginning of this year we were going to stand on Psalms 40, the entire chapter. And we've read and kind of had multiple instances that have been like Psalms 40 we've referenced back to. So that entire chapter is our life right now. But I want to read the rest of Psalms 40 and then we're done. And I'm so sorry this is so long.
But if you're still watching this, like, you're our real people.
Yes,
then.
yes, because
36
I understand.
minutes.
I understand. I'm sorry. But Psalms 40, verse 3, I'm just going to read it all the way to the end. He has given me a new song to sing, a hymn of praise to our God. Many will see what he has done and be amazed. They will put their trust in the Lord. Oh, the joys of those who trust in the Lord, who have no confidence in the proud or in those who worship idols. O Lord my God, you have performed many wonders for us. Your plans for us are too numerous to list. You have no equal. If I tried to recite all your wonderful deeds, I would never come to the end of them. You take no delight in sacrifices or offerings. Now that you have made me listen, I finally understand, and he made us listen. You don't require burnt offerings or sin offerings. Then I said, look, I have come as is written about me in the scriptures. I take joy in doing your will, my God, if your instructions are written on my heart. I've told all your people about your justice. I have not been afraid to speak out. As you, O Lord, well know, I've not kept the good news of your justice hidden in my heart. I've talked about your faithfulness and saving power. I've told everyone in the great assembly of your unfailing love and faithfulness. Lord, don't hold back your tender mercies from me. Let your unfailing love and faithfulness always protect me. For troubles surround me, too many to count. My sins pile up so high I can't see my way out. They outnumber the hairs on my head. I have lost all courage. Lord, please rescue me. Come quickly, Lord, and help me. May those who try to destroy me be humiliated and put to shame. May those who take delight in the trouble be turned back in disgrace. Let them be horrified by their shame, for they said, ah, we've got him now. Hold on. But may all who search for you be filled with joy and gladness in you. May those who love your salvation repeatedly shout, the Lord is great. As for me, since I am poor and needy, let the Lord keep me in his thoughts. You are my helper and my savior. Oh my God, do not delay. So that is Psalms 40. And without a doubt, I feel like the word that Pastor Neil shared was so vital in all of this. But we just wanted to share the good news of what happened. And if you're watching this, we love you, and thanks for sticking with us and supporting us through this crazy journey. So that's it.